Welcome back to my Getting Better at College Football 26 series. The reason why I started this series in the first place is because of my online dynasty. If you haven't checked it out, it's called The League. It's on my channel. There is a playlist that has, so far we're 3 episodes in, has all of those episodes. It really is worth your time. I highly recommend it. But there are people in that league that have struggled mightily so far. We are playing on default Heisman sliders, and they've struggled to consistently move the ball on offense and get stops on defense. So I decided that I was going to release a couple of videos talking about how you can just get better against the CPU at this game. This is not comp. This is not player versus player, because you do have to go a step further against another user. But against the CPU, it should not be as hard as some people make it be. And a lot of it is a basic understanding of football and how it works and is translated into the game. So today we're going to talk about the defensive side of the football. Now, the first 2 episodes I did were focused on the running game and the passing game. The defensive format is going to follow that same suit. Today, we're going to talk mostly about the passing game, what coverages are, why you would choose to run them, what the different things mean in the bottom left corner of the plays, because I know that's something that really trips people up, but essentially understanding the rules of pass coverage and what it means for your defense to help you better understand why you would call certain things in certain situations. And I'm going to, speak to my credibility a little bit. So in that online dynasty, you'll see Middle Tennessee State, as you can see on the screen right here. I run a 4-2-5 defense, and we're giving up 10.5 points a game. I think it might be less than that. I've, 2 shutouts, held Wisconsin to 9 points. I did have a rough game against Marshall where they scored 42 on me. But other than that, nobody has scored more than 10 points. And why do I say this? Because I have a pretty good understanding of how to defeat the CPU offense, just based off of playing this game a lot and having a decent understanding of football and the dynamics behind it. So the first thing that you want to do is really get a good feel for what defensive formation you run. I've always been a even front guy growing up. Like, I don't know, something just drew me to those 4-man fronts. If you're a 3-man front or an odd front guy that likes to run, that 3-4 where you got 5 defenders on the defensive line, that is completely up to you. But you have to have a good comfort level with that defense. There are people who run 3-2-6 and do it phenomenally. I'm not one of those people. I really do not like the 3-2-6 defense because there are only 3 down linemen, and you're really relying on your DBs to make a lot of plays. I've always been of the thought process that I want my defensive line to be the one making the plays in the run game and being able to generate pass rush and not having to bring anybody else. And so for me, I like running the 4-2-5. It gives me some versatility on the defensive side of the ball to have a strong safety, second strong safety on the field where he can still help in the run game, but is a little bit more athletic than an extra linebacker. That's why I like it. Now, the other thing that you want to do before you even get to your play selection is understand how to match personnel. Now, what do I mean by this? So let's say that you're looking at a 3rd and long, so 3rd and 11 from the offense's perspective. They're going to come out in probably 4 wide. Now, they may have a tight end out there. So what is that personnel called? Well, if you have 1 tight end, it's 11 personnel. If you don't have any tight ends, so if they truly are 4 wide, then it is, and they have a running back, it is 10 personnel. It is super important that you understand when in the top left above your play screen, when it shows up what the offense's formation and personnel is, that you call a corresponding defense that is going to help you be in a better position to defend that. So if they come out in, anything less than 12 personnel, nickel might be your best option. If they come out in 12 or 13 personnel, or even a, 21 where they have a fullback in there, or a 22 where they're fullback and 2 tight, you come out in your base defense. Now, your base defense is going to be, if you're just in a 4-3, or a 4-3 multiple, it's going to be a 4-3. Now, whatever, front you go with is up to you. If you're in a 3-4 defense, it's going to be that 3-4. If you're in one of the other defenses, so say you're in a 3-3-5 tight, it is going to be a 3-3-5. It is going to be your base defense. Every defensive playbook has a different base formation. So you just have to understand what yours is. Basically, if they add more beef on the field, you also want to add more beef on the field. And so let's click on the 4-2-5. Let's just go back to it. we'll go to the over. And then this is where I'm going to show you what I mean by personnel. So out of the Delaware playbook, they have 11 personnel, 10 personnel, 12 personnel, 32 personnel. So it's those first two numbers if you haven't picked that up right now. It's that left number and that right number, or in that middle number with the tight end. So this is 23, this is 22, this is 21. So that is all that is. And just a little football knowledge for you to also help you understand why you do the things you do. I'm not going to come out in the dime formation if they come out in a 22 personnel look. If they have two tight ends on the field, why in the world am I coming out with 6 defensive backs? That is asking for my team to get the ball ran all over me. So that is a key thing that we have to think about when we are picking what formation we are going to call. If a team you're playing is heavy in pistol and shotgun looks and really likes to spread the field, you're probably not going to be playing much base defense. You're probably going to be living in a lot of nickel and a lot of 3-3-5 stuff. Just anything that can get an extra DB on the field to get yourself faster in space is what you want to do. So now that we've done that, the next thing that you need to understand is what play you are actually calling. Because I see this so often where people call a play and they don't actually know what is supposed to happen on that play, what their defensive responsibilities are on that play. So as you see, when you click on a formation, you will see in the bottom left corner of every single play what it is. So you're going to see everything from blitz, zone, match, man. I believe those are the only 4 options. Now, what is the difference between those 4 things? So match coverage is not zone coverage. People keep confusing that and is killing them on the back end. Match coverage means that whenever a player crosses a face into a zone, that defender then picks up that player. Now, there are different rules for what defender covers which receiver based off of what they run, but base level understanding is that once a offensive player enters a defender's zone, they then travel with that player. Now, sometimes you'll see teams pass those off, but more often than not, you are sticking with that player once they enter the zone. What does that do for you defensively? Well, if you are a team that likes to run more zone coverage, but you're getting killed by these spot plays, right, where they just sit down in the zone, running match coverage is going to allow you to have your defenders react to an offensive player sitting in a zone and cover that offensive player more tightly, right? So that's why you run match coverage, to take away some of those plays. Now you can see over on the right side of the screen, the right play, quarters. It is a match coverage. A lot of people will run quarters and expect to just have their safeties and corners play an umbrella coverage and play those 4 deep zones. That is not how the game has that coverage programmed unless you say otherwise, right? And I'll get into how you do that a little bit later. But you need to understand that quarters coverage means that all of those guys are playing base roles. So if you come out and you're facing a 1-by-3 look, so you have 1 receiver on one side and 3 receivers on the other, that is going to change the rules of quarters. So the way it works is your corner will carry that number 1 receiver vertical. So whoever is the most outside wide receiver, by the time that they get vertical, is who that corner will take. So if there was some sort of wheel concept that happens with a post, they pass that off. That outside corner then takes the wheel, and the safety on the trip side will play that post. But what happens to the backside safety? So that backside safety is keying on the number 3 receiver. Now that'll be the receiver that is closest to your formation on that trip side. They are the other deep zone. And so I'll show you exactly what it looks like. So we got a trips Y slot strong. So it means that there's trips with the Y spread out. So that would be the tight end. But it also means that the running back is strong. That's what that STR means. They're on the passing strength of the formation. So I'm just going to show you exactly what I'm talking about with this 4 verticals play. So as you can see, this safety, Douglas up there, is going to carry that tight end, Jake Bradell, who if you watch the series is a phenomenal player. He's going to carry him vertical. So as you'll see when they snap the ball here, look what happens. He is responsible for that player. What a catch by Jake Bradell. But you can see what I'm saying. You can see how the match quarters works because that's what it is. So if I don't cover him, he's got to come down on him, right? That is who he has because he crossed the face over the field. If we go to a different play out of this quarters look, so we're going to do this whip post. So this is going to have number 3 go vertical. So that tight end right there in the slot is going to be a essentially seam ball. As you can see, he is immediately coming over. Why? Because that is his man. If you were to come out in a 2x2 set where there are 2 receivers on either side, well, then your safety would not carry him. But because there are 3 receivers, he's immediately carrying Jake Bradell. You can see him go right away. So this is how you can also take advantage offensively of a defense that comes out and is running predominantly quarters. Why? Because if that wide side receiver runs a cross route and you have a tight end going vertical, that safety is going to cover that vertical route. Now, how do you fix this? If you don't want your quarters coverage to be a match coverage, how do you fix this? Press Y, and then you're going to either flick up or down to go over top on your right stick. To go over top or underneath. I went over top. Look what happens. Now they're just playing base cover 4. Still a great throw. That is how you fix it. So if you want your match, if you want your quarters or any formation, this is zone match. This is anything that says match in that bottom left. If you want it to be a match coverage, keep it. Don't do anything. If you don't, press Y, flick up or down on your right stick. And this is also going to change the way that your defenders play the route concepts. If you go underneath, they are going to sit more shallow than they would if you go over top, and they're going to bite on anything that is underneath. If you go over top, they're going to let all that underneath stuff go because they're expecting a shot down the field. So I go underneath this time. It's going to change the way, see, now you see the hard flats instead of clouds for my underneath coverages. So we're going to see how the defense plays this differently. So not much changes in terms of the umbrella coverage, the 4 deep quarters players, but underneath they sat more on that underneath stuff. So that is the match coverage side of it, right? So you can either have match coverage or you cannot. It's up to you, right? So it says match coverage down there. If you see that, you have to have the wherewithal to know, hey, if I don't change something pre-snap in my audibles, this is going to be match coverage. Match coverage can work really well with you. And we saw why, right? If you are getting killed on specific route concepts because your safety is not playing, the deep pass like you want him to, run a match quarters, right? Run that. And your safety is going to pick up guys rather than let them cross his face. But if you don't want your safety to just pick up that number 3 receiver just because he's the number 3 receiver, then you have to understand to change your pre-snap stuff to, over top or underneath so that your safety won't play the number 3 receiver like he's supposed to in match. Blitz is pretty self-explanatory, right? You'll have your man blitzes, you'll have your zone blitzes. Zone blitzes are match coverage on the backside. Okay, that is a key component to know. If I run this strong safety blitz, they're playing match coverage on the backside. That is super important to know. I just want you to see what the coverage looks like. You see how when I come out of match coverage, my safety immediately looks to number 2, right? Because I'm in a cover 3 look. So this safety is dropping. He's playing this deep third zone. This safety, so it's a cover 2 shell. right? This looks like cover 2 over top. This safety is playing what we call a buzz, hook. So he's buzzing down into essentially the box. He has number 2. No matter what number 2 does, he has number 2, right? Your corner's got number 1, and then your linebacker right here, number 8, has got number 3. Look at this. I didn't change anything pre-snap. So he's got him essentially in man coverage. Now, this is what I'm talking about when stuff gets passed off and where you can get into some trouble on match coverage. So he feels the tight end, but he sees this drag route underneath. His eyes, obviously, are in the backfield. And so he's going to go with the guy that he sees. And this is why the middle of the field opens up, because he is now matched with this guy. Burdell, because I also did bring a blitz, so there is one extra guy, is wide open because he's playing a deep third. He's playing a deep third. And so what happens? The middle of the field is wide open. And you might be asking, well, why didn't this corner go with his number 1 receiver? Because he immediately went inside. So his zone rules tell him to pass it off to this linebacker. This linebacker sees the running back coming out of the backfield. He's like, oh, this is my match man. He also knows that he's got another linebacker over there that's playing that zone. He's also the flat defender. He is a hook curl defender. That's how you start to understand the logic behind it and why, people get frustrated that this guy's wide open. But based off of the defensive and football logic of it, it makes sense now. He didn't throw him the ball, but he still picked up a lot of yards. Okay. So look at how everything changed when I went from my base zone match defense to just zone coverage. So it's essentially spot drop defense. Look at how he plays. It's the same route concept that we just saw. It's a Mills level concept. Look at how he plays this wheel route as opposed to how he played it the last time. And look how it changes where you can attack the defense. So clearly, he's not running with this wheel route anymore, which is why the zone match coverage would be nice on the back end, because he is traveling with this receiver. Now, what will happen when you have a thirds coverage over top? Well, you can dictate where that corner has to attack with a wheel and post concept. And this post route now becomes wide open because the corner is going to do his best to play both. But if you're a great quarterback, that's an easy window to hit, and it's a touchdown. But look at how the underneath is played differently. Look at what Pitts does here. He doesn't travel with this drag route. Instead, he's carrying Burdell over top. So you just have to understand what you're trying to stop defensively and know what to be in to get that result. Because I just ran the same defensive play against the same route concept, the literal same exact play out of, concept of the same formation, and it was defended completely differently. These are the kind of chess games that you can play defensively if you understand what you're doing. And I'm not going to talk too much about zone and man just because those are pretty self-explanatory, I feel. If you look at this cover 2 right here on the left side of the screen, that just means it's spot drop zone, right? So it's kind of what we just saw on that last play. Now, man is just straight up man defense, right? There is no other thing behind it. But any zone blitz that you have to know that it is match coverage on the backside. You have to know that. Because if you don't, then you will get burnt. So now that we got that out of the way, I want to talk to you about using a linebacker or a safety and why it's so important. Because if you're using a defensive lineman, you are essentially limiting yourself to what you can stop defensively. So we're going to run that same Mills level concept that we just saw against a cover 3. Now, why is it important that you use a safety or a linebacker rather than a defensive lineman? Because it allows you to take things away. And why do you want to take things away? Well, because it makes it harder for the CPU to know what to do with the ball. So, right, I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to come down on it. I'm going to show you how differently the CPU plays it. So he's going to carry this tight end the entire way, leaving that wide open underneath. Now, it's not wide open, but you see how differently they play it. Now, I do know what's coming here. Then you can play it, right? So you can show, break on this, bop. All of a sudden, it's an incomplete pass. Yeah, it helps I know what's coming, but being able to do all of those things makes your life a lot easier as a defender than if you're simply trying to rely on the CPU AI on the backside to make those plays. Where this can really help you is on any double slant, on crossers, on any sort of levels concept. Anything that is over the middle of the field, you now have the ability to take away everything. This is why it's so important that you become comfortable playing a linebacker or a safety or any of the nickel defenders, because it's going to allow you to take so much more away in the passing game. You know, you just can't rely on your AI defensively to continuously make plays and take things away. This is, you know, if you're not playing with house rules that restrict who you're able to use on defense, if anybody. These things should give you a better basic level understanding of your pass defense, how you can get it to work for you, how you can get it to be effective, and how you can use it to, you know, defeat some, you know, CPU opponents that are giving you some trouble. So hopefully you're able to take a lot away from this video and really understand the why behind it all to get yourself more comfortable in being able to actually do it on a down-to-down basis. Because once you are able to feel comfortable in your ability to see what the offense is trying to do, understand where your responsibilities are on that play, in that user situation, because you do need to get to yourself to a point where you're using a linebacker or a safety, you should start to see an exponential growth in how well your defense plays, really game to game. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you on the flip. See ya.